Chapter 1. Perry Brumfield unzipped his pants as he entered the bedroom and strode confidently toward the queen-size bed. He was in his early 30s, with neatly trimmed hair that didn't quite cover the top of his ears. He was dressed in a black three-piece pinstripe suit with a yellow polka-dot tie, and he wore black wingtip shoes that were so highly buffed you could almost see your face in them. "Hey, I need the money up front," Jean said, standing in the doorway behind him, her right hand on her hip and her left hand outstretched, palm up. She wore a short green figure-hugging skirt with matching high heels and a white silk blouse. Her flowing red hair descended well below her shoulders. He hesitated and turned toward her. He had had a few drinks, and for the first time that evening, it started to show. Or maybe she hadn't been paying close enough attention until now. She usually took clients she didn't know to hotel rooms, and she had initially balked at letting him come to her apartment, which was reserved for men she could trust, insofar that was ever completely possible. But her girlfriend had vouched for this man, and she had relented. "What if I don't feel like it?" he asked, smiling broadly. Maybe he's just playing around, Jean thought. He seemed harmless enough, and based on what her friend had told her, coupled with the way he dressed, money was clearly not something he had to worry about. "I'm sorry, sweetie," she said, smiling back at him, "but those are the house rules." His smile evaporated and turned into an angry snarl. "I said I don't feel like it." "Shit," Jean said under her breath. "What?" "Nothing. Listen, what do you say we hit the bar again? Have another drink and talk this over. How does that sound, huh? Don't you have anything here?" "No, I'm all out." The smile reappeared. "All right," he said, zipping his pants up and moving toward her. "I guess I could use another one." Jean exhaled slowly. This was an occupational hazard she could not completely escape, no matter how careful she was, and truth be told, no matter where she was. Still, she had dodged a bullet. She would get this creep to the bar down the street and dump him. Then she would give her girlfriend a piece of her mind for getting her into this mess. She started toward the front door, picking up her purse from the coffee table on the way. Still smiling, Brumfield joined her and put his arm around her shoulder as they approached the door. When she opened it, though, he kicked it shut and shoved her against it, back first. His left hand clutched her throat. Not enough to impede her breathing, but more than enough to pin her to the door. His face twisted into an ugly scowl. "You don't listen too good, do you?" "No, I don't feel like I'm paying at all." This wasn't the same man she'd met at the bar earlier that evening. That man was the one her best friend had described. A successful salesman in a three-piece suit who would never say, "You don't listen too good." And it wasn't just the liquor. He literally was not the man he'd pretended to be. And although her customers often weren't, she almost always could tell. But not this time. Suddenly his scowl melted into a smile once again. Plainly, he was enjoying himself. At first, Jean sneered at him, a natural reaction. Then her instincts kicked in and she smiled back. His own smile broadened. Her eyes found his and locked on them. Intrigued, he loosened his grip on her neck ever so slightly. Still smiling, and careful not to telegraph anything to him, Jean twisted her body sideways and drove one of her heels into the top of his foot. He winced, groaned loudly, and fell to the floor, grasping his wounded foot with both hands. Still facing sideways, she swung her purse at his head like she was delivering a backhand in a tennis match. He dodged it just in time, and the purse flew across the room, spilling its contents as it hit the wall. She turned toward him, and a half-step brought her close enough to reach for the doorknob. As her hand grasped it, Brumfield grabbed her ankle and pulled her to the floor. "Bitch!" he growled as he pinned her arms to the floor beside her and pulled himself on top of her abdomen, propping himself up on his knees with his legs straddling her.